Welcome to Fantasy Audiobook, American Comics. Opening sign in Accelerator. Chapter 51 Levi's ambition to build Academy City. After hearing so much, Levi's finally reacted. After a long time, Nick Fury just wanted him to realize that his power caused the fear of the World Security Council. That's why he, who should have been a hero, was hidden. Certainly, Levi's doesn't care what the hero's name is. If it wasn't for Professor X's orders, he wouldn't shoot even if many people died. And hearing him say that, Nick Fury immediately shook his head. No, Mr. Weiss, S.H.I.E.L.D. is not afraid of your power, because power varies from person to person. Even a power as terrifying as a nuclear bomb can still be the pinnacle of peace in the world. So great power is never scary, and I'm sure Mr. Weiss is the same. Levi's was a little surprised to hear this, but he didn't expect Nick Fury to have this kind of awareness. Also, like Captain Marvel, who has great power but chooses to protect the Earth. Maybe that's what made Nick Fury feel this way. Clap clap clap. Levi's applauded. Director Nick Fury's eloquence is amazing. No, I'm just stating the facts, Nick Fury said with a serious face without blushing and heartbeat. Those who didn't know thought he was a righteous partner. And Levi's wouldn't trust him so easily. So, it's the people of the World Security Council who are afraid of my power, so to speak. Nick Fury nodded. Then what are they going to do? Are they trying to deal with me? Levi's smiled disdainfully and said, they can't even deal with Hulk, so why deal with me? To put it uglier, he could easily destroy those people in the World Security Council, so why would those people dare to take action against him? Nick Fury also heard what he meant, which made his ability to Levi's improve a lot. Even if the World Security Council is not afraid, then there is probably nothing in the world that can make him afraid. Such a person, if pressed, would be an unimaginable disaster for the world. Thinking of this, Nick Fury couldn't help but smile and said, don't worry, Mr. Weiss, I have already suppressed this matter, and they will not deal with you lightly. Oh, then what? Levi's folded his arms and looked at him calmly. So far, the positions of the two sides have seemed to be reversed. In the beginning, Nick Fury wanted to use the World Security Council to suppress Levi's, but he didn't want Levi's not to eat him at all. This made his next remarks somewhat inappropriate. Mr. Weiss, we have a position for you. With that, Nick Fury took out a document and put it in front of him. Levi's picked it up and looked at it. Avengers. He looked at the profile with some surprise, but he didn't expect Nick Fury to want him to join Avengers. And he was the first to join. This is a department just created by S.H.I.E.L.D. As you can see, you are the first to join. Now the whole world is getting more and more chaotic, such as hate and the Hulk. There are even terrifying aliens in unknown places, so the Earth needs those of you who have special abilities to protect. Nick Fury explained with a serious look. Levi's thought for a moment and smiled. That is, S.H.I.E.L.D. provides protection for me, and I have to work for you. No, it's a collaboration. Oh, cooperation, so what can you do for me? Don't talk about the World Security Council, I don't care about those people at all. Levi's words are clear, if you want him to join Avengers, you have to show practical benefits. Joining the Avengers is also a good thing for him. After all, if you join Avengers, you can get in touch with more people with special abilities, which makes it easier for him to sign in. Nick Fury is very happy to hear that he has no objection to joining the Avengers. Well, S.H.I.E.L.D's information can be shared with X-Men, and various resources can also be used by X-Men. Director Nick Fury really has the guts, I said yes. Levi's nodded in satisfaction. It can be said that what Nick Fury promised is exactly what he wanted. Once there is the support of S.H.I.E.L.D., then X-Men can develop rapidly, which is very important for X-Men. In fact, he has always had an ambition to create a city that belongs to mutant. Controlling Dr. Campbell was also intended for this purpose. As long as you can build machines that make ordinary people mutants, it's easy to build a mutant city. Definitely, if you want to achieve these various resources are essential. That's one of the reasons why he agreed. Nick Fury was finally relieved to see that he agreed. Facing Levi's, he just felt more difficult to deal with than some old guys. American Comics. Opening sign in Accelerator 52. American Comics. Opening sign in Accelerator. Chapter 52 Professor X and #039's mission. As expected of that sentence, in the face of absolute power, there is no way to start any conspiracy and tricks. Since you agreed, Mr. Weiss, then sign this agreement. Strike while the iron is hot, and Nick Fury handed him the agreement to join the Avengers. Levi's didn't talk nonsense either and signed the agreement directly. Mr. Weiss, sign this agreement, you will be a member of the Avengers from today, if the organization has any mission. Don't worry, if you have anything, just come to me. Levi's agreed very generously, and he didn't say the next sentence of definitely, that is, it depends on his mood whether to go or not. If you have to find him for anything big, he doesn't have that spare time. Coming out of the office of the head of the stewed egg, Polaris hurried over. Weiss, what did you talk about? It's just that the head of the braised egg invited me to join his Superman boy organization. Levi's smiled. Head of braised egg. Hearing this name from his mouth again, Polaris couldn't help but look back at your Nick Fury in the office, and it really looks like a marinated egg. You promised. Definitely, that's fun, isn't it? Levi's doesn't explain much. Okay then. Polaris looked indifferent. Anyway, she was very agree with Levi's decision. Return to Mutant College. Levi's told Professor X about his collaboration with S.H.I.E.L.D. Good boy, you did a great job. After listening to it, Professor X showed a gratified smile, and also sighed at Levi's sensibleness. At a young age, he knew that he was thinking about mutants' future, and he had already taken action for it. He really didn't know what words to use to praise this child. Since Levi's awakening ability a month ago, he has done several big things that benefit mutant. For example, he rescued Polaris, saw through the Hellfire Club's conspiracy, and found the 4th level mutant, and stopped Magneto's conspiracy to save the little naughty, and so on. As you can see from these things, Levi's has what it takes to lead the X-Men. Thinking of this, Professor X said softly, Weiss, I have seen your ability, so I want you to be in charge of X-Men, what do you think? What? Levi's was stunned for a moment when he heard this, but he didn't expect Professor X to let himself take his place. Professor, you are the backbone of the X-Men, how can the X-Men do without you, and I'm still so young. He can't be bothered to take charge of X-Men's affairs, that's too much trouble. Professor X shook his head, it doesn't matter, I'm old, I'll leave one day, and X-Men today also needs a good leader. Then, well, I promise. Hearing Professor X's words, Levi's thought about it and sighed and agreed. After all, Professor X is not too young. After working hard for mutant all his life, it is time to take a break. When Professor X saw his promise, he immediately gave a relieved smile. Later, Professor X called the X-Men over and told them of the decision. Today's X-Men are only Jean Grey, Cyclops, Storm and Wolverine who have left the Academy. The others are either students or not yet. In short, today's X-Men is only beginning to take shape. Several people had different expressions after hearing Professor X's decision. I'm okay. Storm and Jean Grey were able to see Levi's leadership ability and powerful strength in their last mission to rescue Little Naughty. So they had no objection to Levi's being their leader. Only Cyclops didn't say a word. After all, it was a little unacceptable for him to let a person who had just awakening ability, and one of his former students, become the leading boss. Fortunately, Logan has left, otherwise, he will definitely stand up against it. Scott, do you have any questions? Professor X asked without saying a word. Cyclops shook his head with a complicated expression. No, I have no problem, I also know that I am not enough to lead X-Men to create a better future, so I agree. Hearing these words, Levi's was a little surprised, he didn't expect him to say such a thing. According to his understanding, Cyclops would not agree, but he did not expect that he would not only agree, but also face up to his own shortcomings. Weiss, I hope you can lead X-Men to become stronger. Cyclops looked at him seriously. Levi's was stunned for a moment, then smiled confidently. Don't worry, Mr. Scott, I will definitely do it. Seeing this, Professor X immediately showed a gratified smile. It seems that he has a successor. He couldn't help but want to see the glorious future of Xavier's school. American Comics. Opening sign in Accelerator 53. Chapter 53 S.H.I.E.L.D. and #039, S1 Mission. Leaving Professor X's office, Levi's and Cyclops came to the battle room together. Now that Professor X has handed over the X-Men to him, he must sit on the top of the list. Ah, Mr. Scott, Mrs. Orlo, Mr. Chin, although the professor gave me the X-Men, the file size of the X-Men is still up to you. After all, I don't care about it. Familiar. Levi's shrugged. Compared to letting him handle everything, he prefers to be a hands-off shopkeeper. If there are important matters, it will be up to him to deal with it. Definitely, we will help you in this regard. Storm smiled and agreed. She had seen Levi's get stronger bit by bit with her own eyes, so she also trusted him very much. Yeah, Levi's nodded with satisfaction. By the way, I wonder what happened to the Strucker family. After returning to the academy for so many days, he still hadn't cared about the situation of the Strucker family. The piano on the side said, Mr. Reed and Ms. Catherine became the teachers of the college. As for Lauren and Andrew, they became students, and their situation is not bad. Oh, that's good. Is Mr. Reed's ability problem solved? Reed's ability is very dangerous. It's okay not to activate it. Once activated, it will be out of control and may hurt others. It has been resolved, and now he can initially control ability. Cyclops on the side answered his question. That's good. Levi's touched his chin and said, Next, I plan to expand the number of X-Men. After all, there are too few X-Men people today. Today's X-Men and him are only 5 people in total. If you remove Wolverine, who has left, they're down to 4, which is too few. Storm and Cyclops glanced at each other. We agreed. They have also thought about adding members to X-Men, but very few have the ability to join. Wes, who are you going to let in? Storm asked curiously. My current candidates are all here, let's take a look. Levi said he tapped his fingers in the air and used molecular manipulation to instantly create tables with exactly what he had in mind to join the X-Men. Although I have seen this scene of creating something out of thin air last time, it is still a bit shocking to see the 3 of Storm again. 3 forms flew in front of them, and they picked them up and looked at them. Name, Lorna. Codename, Polaris. Ability, electromagnetic force. Recommended reason. The information of each person is clearly written in the tables, and there are even reasons for the recommendation. And his list of recommendations includes Polaris Lorna, Shadowcat Katie, Blink Clarice, Naughty Mary, Reed Strucker, Iceman Poppy, Burning Man John and Colossus, to name a few. It can be said that he has considered all future X-Men members. Definitely, many of the mutants' abilities in the Academy have not yet grown up. For example, the Strucker twins can't perfectly control their own power. Therefore, this table is only used as a reference. Now only Polaris can really join. In fact, Thunderbird should also be eligible to join, but unfortunately he is not in the Mutant Academy and can only make arrangements later. Then the 4 discussed it. The decision was made to let Polaris join first, and the others would take some time. They will also be trained accordingly. In this way, I believe that X-Men will soon grow up. For the next period of time, Levi's was more leisurely. Cyclops and the newly joined Polaris will take care of the college affairs, while he and Magneto's laboratory are also preparing one after another. This time, with the resources of S.H.I.E.L.D., it was much easier for them to prepare. But since they used S.H.I.E.L.D.'s resources, Nick Fury certainly won't let himself suffer. This is not the first task S.H.I.E.L.D. gave Levi's came on Helicarrier, in the S.H.I.E.L.D. director's office. Director Nick Fury, tell me, what is the mission this time? Levi's asked straight to the point when he came to the office. Nick Fury is no bullshit either. Wes, you should know Tony Stark. Tony Stark, I don't think anyone in New York doesn't know about this super rich second generation. Levi's shrugged. He said he not only knew, but knew Tony Stark very well. But then again, since Nick Fury mentioned his words, did that happen? Maybe. His words almost left Nick Fury at a loss as to what to say. I want to say that Tony Stark is missing. Just 3 months ago, the military sent people to search for a long time and couldn't find it. So, my job is to get this dude back. Levi's asked rhetorically, interrupting his tirade. That's right. Nick Fury nodded. No problem, I'm going on this mission. This task is not difficult for him at all, because he knows the famous Iron Man, who is now building Mark I in a cave in Afghanistan. It was too easy to find him. American Comics. Opening sign in Accelerator 54. Chapter 54 Sign into Helicarrier, The Last Element. Leaving Nick Fury's office, Instead of rushing to find Tony Stark, Levi's used telepathy to connect the Cuckoo sisters. Is Esme here? I'm here, Esme responded quickly. Esme is one of the 5 Cuckoo sisters. Definitely, it is not clear if she is a big sister. I'll send you some money, you quickly buy some Stark Industries stock. How much can you buy? Understand? Clear. Esme didn't have any doubts, and simply agreed. Immediately afterwards, Levi's used electromagnetic force to incarnate a hacker, manipulated accounts that the bank had not used for many years and some black accounts, transferred all the money in it, and handed it over to the 5 Cuckoo sisters. His purpose for doing so is self-evident. Since there is such a good opportunity to be kidnapped by Tony Stark, it is definitely going to make a lot of money. Although he is not short of money, who would think too much money? After all this, Levi's is ready to travel to Afghanistan to find Tony Stark. But before that, he didn't forget to check in on the helicarrier. Open black lens bracket ding. Has the host checked into the helicarrier? Close black lens bracket. Sign me in. Open black lens bracket ding. The sign-in is successful. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the super ability, End Origin Substance, with 100 experience points. Close black lens bracket. It turned out to be the end element material. Levi's, who was prompted by the system, was a little surprised. He didn't expect that this time he signed in, he actually got the bug ability of the last element. Why do you say this ability bug? Because this super ability can create substances that do not exist in this world at all. It is not that they have not been discovered, but substances that do not exist in this world completely. And in the process of creation, all physical and chemical properties can be assigned to this substance. That is, if you create a piece of end element matter, set it to the property of vibranium. Then this piece of end element matter is as hard as the real vibranium, and possesses all the special properties of vibranium. If set to the properties of adamantium, it can be as sharp and hard as Wolverine's claws. Definitely, while they do have the vibranium and adamantium shapes and properties, they definitely don't get those 2 metals if they're tested. And this setting has no constraints, that is to say, the properties of the last element can be arbitrarily set. Even it is not impossible to make a piece of last element material have the properties of vibranium and adamantium at the same time. For example, the white wings created by Emperor Kakin using the end element material can be used in applications such as flight, defense, strike, slash, gale, and shockwave. It also converts sunlight passing through its wings into lethal light. It can be said that if this ability is placed in the hands of a scientist, it is much more powerful than vector operations. Because it is possible to create end element matter of any property, it is simply more powerful to engage in scientific research. Just like Tony Stark, if he gets the ability of the last element, no one knows where his upper limit is. It can be said that the last element is a very creative ability. As long as your creativity is strong enough, you can play infinite possibilities. Levi's, who got this ability, was in a good mood. He had already thought about how to use this ability. In a good mood, he used the space to move and came to Afghanistan in an instant. Then, under his telepathy, he soon found the cave where Tony was. Beep beep. As soon as I entered the cave, I heard a beep beating. Levi saw that Tony was assembling his first steel armor. Maybe it was because he was too focused, so Tony didn't notice him behind him. Hey, need help? The sudden sound made Tony shudder and stop beating. He turned around and saw a young man sitting on a box beside him looking at him with interest. Who are you? Tony was very wary of this sudden appearance. Because the gate in the cave is still tightly closed, so how did this person come in? I'm a mutant, and I heard that Tony Stark, the famous playboy, was kidnapped here, so let's see if I need help, okay. Do you want to go out? Levi's grinned. Tony was a little excited when he heard this, thinking how much he wished someone could rescue him when he woke up from the cave, no matter who it was. He is willing to pay any price for it. However, after 3 months, his impetuous mentality has been completely smoothed out. He didn't fully trust the stranger in front of him. What do you want? Tony asked bluntly. It's very simple, just give a few $100 million USD. Levi said loudly. $500 million USD. As long as you can save me safely from here, then all the money is yours. Forehead. Levi's was a little surprised when he heard his words, thinking that he would be rejected if he opened his mouth, or that he would be given a maximum of 100 million United States dollars. Unexpectedly, Tony Stark gave 500 million United States dollars as soon as he opened his mouth. Sure enough, it's kind of rude. What? Not enough? Tony raised an eyebrow. Enough is enough. Then let's go. Levi's jumped off the box and walked over to Tony, ready to use the teleportation to take him back. For him, just using a space move can make 500 million United States dollars in vain, and there is nothing more profitable than this. American Comics. Opening sign in Accelerator 55. Chapter 55. Another $100 million. However, Tony shook his head. Don't worry now, you should be able to protect me. Is that so? I'm adding 100 million United States dollars. Seeing his hesitation, Tony added another 100 million without hesitation. In his view, as long as it is something that money can solve, it is not a problem. Although a few $100 million USD is a lot, it is nothing compared to his life. Moreover, considering the wealth of his Stark industry, a mere few $100 million USD is simply trivial. No problem, then I'll be your bodyguard once. Levi's shrugged. Originally, he was prepared to agree, but since Tony took the initiative to add more money, he definitely had no problem. Tony didn't speak anymore, turned and tapped his steel armor again. Levi sat bored watching him banging. After a while, the iron door in the cave was opened, and a middle-aged man walked in. Stark, who is this person? The middle-aged man asked with a frown when he saw Levi's. Ethan, this person is here to save us, but I still hope to finish our creation. Tony pounded and explained without looking back. Hello. Ethan held out his hand to Levi's. Hello Dr. Ethan, just call me Wes. Levi smiled and stretched out his hand. He still admired Dr. Ethan. It can be said that without Ethan, there would be no Iron Man. Almost done, come help. Tony yelled. It is good. Dr. Ethan nodded, then helped Tony get started in his steel armor. And suddenly there was one more person in the cave, and was soon discovered by terrorists. What to do? They're coming in. Ethan was a little anxious. Tony frowned when he heard someone shouting outside the cave door, and then he looked at Levi's beside him and said, you should have a way to stop them from coming in. Definitely no problem. Levi's waved at the cave door, and then saw a large amount of ice covering the iron door of the cave. As a result, it is almost impossible for terrorists outside to open the iron door. Tony gave him a deep look at this, then went back to his own business. Dr. Ethan was stunned when he saw this scene. He didn't expect that someone could make ice at will, which was completely different from his scientific concept. Don't be in a daze, Dr. Ethan, he's a mutant, Tony explained. After Ethan heard his words, he suddenly realized that it was mutant who could explain it. Soon, Tony's steel armor was dressed. Although it looks like an iron lump, its power is not as good as underestimated. Come on, let's go out. Tony, who was wearing a suit of armor, spoke hard. Why is it so troublesome, and you want to rely on this iron box to get out? Levi sat on the wooden box and propped his chin board. With this armor, I will eliminate those terrorists, definitely, don't worry, I will give you a lot of money I promised you. Okay then. Levi spread his hands and said it doesn't matter, since he wants to toss, let him do it. Wearing heavy armor, Tony came to the iron gate of the cave, and his flamethrower shot out flames, trying to melt the ice on the iron gate. However, a minute later, Tony was stunned to find that the ice cubes showed no signs of melting. He turned his head and looked at Levi's in disbelief. Levi's almost laughed when he saw this. Tony's proud steel armor didn't expect to encounter an embarrassing thing at the beginning, even the ice couldn't melt. Certainly, the ice that he created doesn't melt so well. To keep Tony Stark from being embarrassed, he waved his hand, and the ice on the iron gate melted away instantly. Many terrorists have already been ambushed outside the door. Tony walked out fearlessly. Bang bang bang. As soon as he walked out, countless bullets hit him. However, when these bullets hit the steel armor, they all bounced back, causing the terrorists themselves to be injured. Then Tony started spraying flames, and in the narrow passage, these terrorists could only escape backwards. Ethan, follow me carefully. Tony turned his head and shouted, then killed the terrorist. Levi's followed behind them. Needless to say, Tony's steel armor is only half finished, but its power is not bad. Terrorist bullets were useless against him. Just rely on a pair of flamethrower to kill out of the cave. However, there were more terrorists outside the cave, dozens of them, and Tony was directly forced back into the cave by the powerful firepower network. Hoo-hoo. Tony opened the mask, gasping for breath. Although the bullets couldn't hurt him, the power attached to the bullets also made him uncomfortable. Please like and subscribe.